Join us today where the tables are being turned on us, where I'm being interviewed by NPR.
What makes a picture?
That is a really important and key point. I think it's based on what excites you. What triggers some emotional response in you? Because if it doesn't start here with you, it's probably not going to transmit over to your viewer. Looking from yourself to find what is that unique angle. Like in the case of the Eiffel Tower photo, I'm looking up, I'm shooting it in black and white, I've got clouds. You know, that was, for me, a unique view. So this is another thing. A pro will often take the same image from many different vantage points and then decide when you get back in the studio which one is the most effective.
Are you saying that the real objective of a photograph is to convey an emotion?
Yes. So what I'm looking for, again, is what's my, and you hit it on the head there, what's my emotional response here? Because ultimately a photograph is a communication. This is a picture that I took, by the way, in the 8th grade. You know, there's something to me that it communicates, this sort of playful element of, you know, what these guys are doing, and I'm trying to transmit that over to my viewer and hopefully have them have that emotional response.
Now, the interesting thing about that photograph to me is it's not only composition that makes it, but it's also lighting.
Yes, I was very fortunate how that worked out, because with the backlighting of the sun going down here, it made a perfect silhouette. That's another example of visualization that can come about in processing, because visualization goes through the whole process of photography. Seeing it in your mind's eye before you do it, whether you're talking about at the beginning where you're pressing the shutter, or in this case in the processing stage, or even how are you going to use that? Do I want to frame it like this? What's the, you know, what's the ultimate use of this photograph?
So part of taking the photograph is thinking about how it's going to wind up. How are you going to use it at the end?
Totally. Is this an Instagram, you know, image that I'm just not going to spend a lot of time with, or maybe I want it in a magazine, or maybe I want it in a book, or maybe I want it in my wall or a Christmas card, who knows? But I do have some sort of thought where this is going to go.
What made you write a book?
Well, it's almost like what kept me from writing it. I stopped putting it off because I knew a long time ago I needed to write a book.
Who did you write it for? Who were you thinking about?
Yeah, my audience is very similar to how I did the videos, which was I was thinking in terms of even a beginner, but they have to be at a crucial point. They have to be at a point where I'm a beginner, but I want to move on. Very similar to where I was when I was 12 years old and I learned the darkroom and I learned about framing. They have to be at that point where they're really ready to jump off. But then I'm also thinking in terms of these advanced people who may have stalled out. You know, they may have advanced to a certain level, but they hit a plateau. So what I'm trying to do is help them move to that next level. This is why I call it advancing your photography, because no matter whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or even a pro, you really do have to keep advancing all the time.
There are a lot of photography books out there. What makes your book unique?
Well, what makes it unique is it's a handbook that covers the entire process from beginning to end. So Kelby is fantastic. If you want to learn Photoshop or you want to learn Lightroom, this guy's the guy. He's your guy. But what if I don't want to have 6 different books and I want to have a complete, you know, overall manual that I can carry around with me? That was my concept, because I saw a lot of books covering different aspects of photography.
Philosophically, what is it that brings people to photography? What is it about photography that makes people as passionate as you are?
You know, I think it's as simple as that we like pictures. You know, we like to have those recordings and we like to be able to show somebody else what you felt and what you saw. And, you know, it's communication, which people like to do a lot of. It's just really that transfer of information from me to somebody else. And if it has an emotional impact, there's something that occurs at the other end that is satisfying. This is when I was in the Sierra Madre when I was 17 years old. Sierra Madre is this is a very remote region above Mazatlan. A day by Jeep, 2 days by foot. And this was on the Rio Verde. These were two boys I just met. I was out hiking. I went for a 5-day solo hike by myself. And, you know, I was engaging them and got this photograph. Henry Cartier-Bresson, who was one of my mentors as a photographer, basically coined a phrase called the decisive moment. He's one of the most prolific photographers from the last century. And he is all about capturing that exact moment when something is occurring. You could say, well, does he visualize even that? Because these things have to happen in a split second. The answer is yes. There still has to be a moment of where you put yourself. Where do you point your camera? And anticipate the action so that you're capturing it at that right exact moment. That's still a visualization process. So this one in a small village in Spain, but the story behind this is, you know, I've been shooting through the village and I didn't really have anything that really grabbed me. I was getting into the car with my friends. I had the door open and I looked up and I saw these clouds. I went, wait a minute, you guys, I'm seeing something here. I'll be right back. And seeing those clouds, I got this angle from where I was looking up at the clouds, but also getting an interesting sort of geometry with these buildings. And by the way, geometry plays a huge part in photography. Here's a geometric set of forms. Your eye just tends to be sort of drawn to it if you can line those geometric shapes up. And that again, let's say I just shot it straight on. It wouldn't be very interesting. But by tilting it, we're changing the geometry tremendously. You know, all of a sudden these are angles instead of like just flat surfaces. That image is all about geometry. It's just got all sorts of geometric shapes in it. You know, it's got the circles and it's got triangles and it's got a rectangle here. You know, it's just a geometric set of shapes. And she's off center, which does something too.
And the transparency of it, the different layers to the photograph make it interesting. It's
Yeah.
a really fascinating photograph.
Thank you. This was in Morocco, in Fez. And they have what's called the Medina. The Medina is like this city within the city. It's walled off completely as a fortress, so that everything inside it is literally its own little city. And inside the Medina, you have these different shops. I was standing in the doorway and I noticed these people going by. And I just took one frame after another. I really wasn't sure how I was going to use this. This was not pre-visualized in the sense of I didn't know ultimately how it was going to work. But then I thought about it and I thought there's got to be a way to show those series of frames. And then I thought, hey, you know, in the old days we used a contact sheet where you saw, you know, all your row of negatives. And so I basically did this in the editing software, just made it, you know, this sequence. And I think what's fun about it is it tells a little story.
It's almost like a film.
It's almost like a little film, exactly. I hope you liked our little film. You can tell I really love talking to you about photography. Subscribe now to catch all our new videos, like us, and share videos with your friends. You can also follow me on Instagram to see what I'm looking at day to day. And remember to get out and capture your own images of life.